Let me teach you about dependency injection inside of Java. First, I want to explain what dependency injection is. You can find it in a lot of different object-oriented programming languages that utilize classes or objects. Essentially, dependency injection is where a class receives its dependencies from an outside source. That is, they're actually injected into the class itself. This makes it so that the class doesn't have to initialize its own dependencies. What this does is it decouples the dependency layer from the implementation layer of a service or something that needs to use the dependency. So this is how you would inject a dependency into a class. What you want to do is inject it at initialization time so that the rest of the class can utilize whatever dependency you're trying to inject. So here we have this constructor where we send in a dependency as a parameter, and then we just set the local dependency to that dependency that we injected. Then later on, we can utilize that dependency and call functions on it. Now I want to show you this service without injection. So you'll see not a whole lot has changed. Our constructor now doesn't have any parameters, and what we're doing is we're actually initializing the dependency inside of the constructor. Now you may think like, what purpose does this serve? Like, why is this important? Basically, we're now coupled with this dependency. Maybe we wanted to reuse this dependency somewhere else in the code. Well, we would have to instantiate it again somewhere else. And that is just bad design. First, you want to be able to reuse code. And second, this actually is a memory problem because you're creating multiple dependencies with the same object information. Now, another reason why this is bad is locality of code. So dependencies are generally created at one time and then reused later throughout the application lifecycle. What we want to do is group things together so that we have maintainable code that we can just easily access and be able to change if we need to. This improves our maintainability, and it also improves our testability. In this example, without injection, what we would have to do in order to test is we'd have to know that the dependency has this name in order to know that do something will return that name. This is really difficult to maintain because you can't actually mock this dependency. It's hard-coded into this constructor. So we can't just create some dependency with some other configuration and inject it into the service and then test what the service is doing. Now, this is a really small example, but you can kind of get an idea as to why this might be bad. Let's take a look at the test class to see how this is just inflexible. Now that we're in this test class, you can see I have this service test without injection, and all it's doing is it's creating that service without injection class and then calling do something. Now the actual result needs to be whatever we have created in that constructor. That dependency in the constructor has some name. But if we wanted to change this, like say we changed it inside of the constructor, and now we have to update this test in order to reflect that change. But what we're doing here is not actually testing the dependency, right? We're testing what do something does. So you can see without injection, we actually lose that flexibility that mocking that dependency would give us. Now, if we look at the service test with injection, we can see that we're creating this dependency, and from that, we're injecting it into this constructor. So now when we create this service with injection, we can then call do something, and we know that this dependency has my name as its value for name. So when we call do something, we know our actual outcome will be my name. Now we can change this to anything that we wanted, and all we had to do would be update it right here in this local area. Another way to test this and to make it even easier to maintain is by changing this to dependency.getName. Now, anytime that we update this dependency, we'll just automatically be testing do something against what the get name is. Again, this is a really small example, but it shows you how powerful dependency injection really is and how it decouples your code and makes it much easier to maintain. It also makes it modular. If I wanted to use this dependency somewhere else, maybe in another service, all I have to do is inject it into the next service. This is a really simple concept, but it's utilized a lot inside of Java application development. Dependency injection is a technique that's rampant inside of, say, Spring framework. When you're putting auto-wired annotations on things, what it's doing is it's grabbing dependencies and injecting them into that class. Very similarly to how we're doing it here with these constructors and dependencies. So that is how you use dependency injection inside of Java.